And if you imagine the network effects of this, hundreds of super chains connected together, that is a ton of revenue going back to the collective. Now, what do they do with it? It all goes towards public goods funding, retroactive public goods funding. And one thing that I think we know from the last big explosion of alternative layer ones is that funding is very important. You can get a lot of users, a lot of builders, a lot of activity through funding. But what you saw in the alt layer one was, well, that works until the funding goes away.
Exactly.
And that funding is pretty much just probably the investment side backing, right?
Yeah.
That token until they're not, until they invested and dumped or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yep.
And so the most exciting thing about the public goods funding on the Optimism side is that that is a sustainable mechanism. That is saying basically the more activity on these chains, the more funding is going to be created to fund more activity on these chains. This isn't just token allocations and VC backing sort of value flowing into the ecosystem until it's gone. It's value being created by those ecosystems, being recycled back into them. And I think that's super exciting. And Optimism, just announced their kind of big overhaul of the program and a massive commitment, right, in OP tokens to sort of bootstrap this. And that, I think, just makes it a very, very exciting place to be building, whether you're on OP mainnet, whether you're on Base or anywhere else.
Yeah. And coming from someone in the Algorand community, Algorand is actually, a lot of the people in the community are pushing the Algorand Foundation and trying to get them to take a more retroactive goods approach to governance and to allocating resources, because Algorand was one of those layer one chains that took had the VC backing, had the money, and the last bull run, spent all those tokens, just really throwing it out to anyone that was willing to build, like a lot of chains were, right? You wanted to attract developers. And now, and during the bear market, they kind of went broke. They made a lot of bad deals, a lot of shady deals that ended up biting them in the butt. And now they're with the little bit of algo they have left in the treasury over the coming 5 years, now they're having to be really selective. And like I said, a lot of the core contributors in Algorand's space, a lot of the builders that are left are saying, hey, we need to go to a retroactive goods model like Optimism has, because people need to show value before we just give them money. They need to build something. And that is so true this bull run. And I think that's why you're going to see a lot cooler things get built, because it's not going to be so much just grant harvesting and people just looking for free handouts. You got to bring the goods to get the goods, right? Yeah. Although I will say, and you did point out some of the things in the retro one of the last disbursements of OP, that there are still some ways to maybe finagle and get large amounts of, and maybe not be bringing as good of an on-chain service. So there is still some kinks to be worked out in that model.
Yeah, it's Optimism has described this, very much as a grand experiment, right? The genesis of this was blog post by Vitalik, where he said it's so much easier to reward impact retroactively than proactively. And that's even if you assume best intent across the board, right? No malicious players, right?
Yeah.
Picking winners is very hard. If it was easy, everybody can make insane amounts of money all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
And you have to think, most of these people that are building these applications, probably like yourself, they just quit their job and then they're getting maybe a large sum of money up front to just build something. And most people have never managed that level of money, whether it be risk. And that's what wrecked a lot of people in the last bear market, is a lot of people maybe held their treasury of what their project was building in a token that lost 60, 70, 80, maybe 90% of value and got completely wrecked. And so, you have to take the retroactive stance, I think, is the stance moving forward. And so it's interesting to kind of be, more in the light and seeing what Optimism's doing.